Hello everybody, it is Tom, and welcome to another snowy day. So it's snowy, it's gray, it's gross outside and very cold. Like I don't mind a snowy day with a beautiful blue sky and some sunlight, but it is just like not a hint of light coming from the sky right now. That's not true, obviously, because that would be night, but yeah. So, all of which is to say, good day to film a video, so here we are. So today's video, I thought it might be fun to chat about a topic that many people can relate to, some cannot, and that is fine. That topic is dating. And not just dating as a teen. I wanted to chat a bit about some of the hijinks and disasters that occurred to me when I was a kid and a teen in terms of romance, and and encourage you folks to share any similar situations or whatever you want to say about the topic of dating as a teen or having crushes on people or whatever you want to talk about. I'd love to hear it. You might have noticed I've been doing a lot of chatty videos lately. And part of that is because, as I said in a previous video, what did I even call it? Something dramatic, like, what happened to this channel? Where I talked about doing fewer reaction videos and more other types of videos. One kind of video I really enjoy doing is this, just chatting about stuff, hearing from you folks in the comments, just having some good old human interaction, such as it is. And also just, like, I feel like I want my stuff in this very horrible time in the world to fit in the category of like light entertainment that hopefully is interesting and maybe a little bit amusing from time to time and just like is something positive potentially. With that said, I will definitely be talking about heavier topics from time to time in videos, but for the most part, I want this to be like a space where we can just, chat about stuff and have a good time and blah, blah, blah. So let's start chatting. So the first person who I dated was actually not a person I dated. It was a fake dating scenario. Ooh. So I was in 4th grade, and I was very into the old Nick at Night TV show. And obviously it's not from Nick at Night, but that's where it was playing. Get Smart. And if you're not familiar with Get Smart, it was a comedy show about a spy, a very inept spy named Maxwell Smart. He had a shoe phone, so he could take his shoe off and talk to someone and talk to like headquarters. He had all these cool gadgets. He was a spy, and I thought he was the coolest person ever, and I wanted to be him. And so I started a spy club in my 4th grade class, which consisted of myself, this kid named Michael, and maybe one other person made up the spy club. We had our headquarters in like one room of the climbing structure on the playground, and we would do things like send each other secret messages. We tried to solve crimes, like the the famous crime of someone put a Post-it note in a disk drive in the computer lab. Who was it? So we had like this list of suspects, and we would question them, and yeah, we never found out who did it, and it really didn't matter, but that was the big. And also at one point, some people on the bus tore the list out of my hands and were reading through it and like, I'm a suspect? What do you? And they got all offended. It was not good. Yeah, so in general, the spy club did not go well. There was an incident where, as part of our crime fighting, myself and Michael, and again, the one other person who I can't remember who it was, sorry, in the spy club, brought toy handcuffs to school. What a great idea. But like up until then, I had been bringing other spy things. Like I had this whole spy kit that I got for either a birthday or Christmas that year, where like one of them looked like a box of Cracker Jacks, but it was actually a periscope. So it had like a mirror on one end and a mirror on the other end that you could slide out secretly and look around corners. It looked like a bottle of Pepsi, but it slid out into a telescope. Like all kinds of cool stuff. I loved it. I was so happy. The handcuffs were the latest thing that we had brought, but unfortunately, Michael got a little too enthusiastic. This is supposed to be a story about dating, but somehow it's turned into me talking about the spy club. Michael got a little too enthusiastic in his questioning of a witness and actually like put a kid in the handcuffs and was like questioning him until he cried. And that was not good. That was not good. So we got in big trouble to the extent that the principal came to our classroom and like talked very, very sternly to us about the situation and why we had thought it was appropriate to bring handcuffs to school. And someone in the class at that point, when the principal was like standing in front of us in like his suit and tie and his hands on his hips being like, what do you think should be your punishment? Some person in the class was like, you should handcuff them together. The whole class is like, yeah, do that. And yeah, that was the end of my spy life, because I was like, please don't do that. I don't want that. And so basically, like, we pleaded for our lives and were let off with a warning. Anyway, the point is, the dating came about because, at the start of the spy club, Michael, the jury is out on why he suggested this, but he was like, we need a reason to be spending all this time together because we don't want anyone to know that we're the spy club. So what if you and I, talking to me, obviously, what if you and I pretend to be dating? What if we pretend? And I was like, this is brilliant. I love this idea. It was such an espionage sort of thing. Like, oh yes, pretending, fake relationship. We're pretending so that no one will suspect. And like, obviously, like, there's no reason to do that. So I don't think the most we did was like tell people, yeah, we're going out. And like, I think we held hands once or twice. But yeah, after the whole handcuffs incident, we did not do that anymore. So yeah, that was my first, dating experience, which wasn't actually real dating. Okay. Next, 8th grade. A friend of mine named Amanda came up to me one day and was like, I know someone who has a crush on you. And I was like, really? Tell me more. So she revealed that I don't think I knew him very well back then, but like this guy named Adam in my grade was interested in me. And so I was like, well, I've never thought about him in that way before. I don't even really know him. And in fact, I'm crushing on these 17 other people. That's not true. I was usually very single-minded in who I was crushing on. So I'm crushing on this person right now, but things there are not proceeding. Here's someone who actually is interested. So for the sake of getting to experience having a boyfriend, and maybe he is the one and we will be wed. So he wrote me a note. Like a folded square of notebook paper, blue ink, where he talked about how smart and beautiful he thought I was. And I was like, okay, sure. So we started dating. And this also, despite being a technically real relationship, was somehow less like involved than the fake relationship I had with Michael, because Michael and I at least like spent a lot of time together and genuinely like had fun time. Adam and I rarely spoke. Like, we would exchange notes. It was a very note-based relationship. He would write me a note. I would write him a note. That's how notes work. He was very verbose in his notes, but when we were actually together physically, we didn't really say much to each other, which, fair enough. Like, I'm also someone who it's easier for me to write something down than say it to someone. The most we did, like, we would sit together at lunch, not speaking. We would walk down the hallway to class holding hands, but not speaking. And then we would exchange notes in class. And it was just like, it was an interesting relationship. Very nice guy. No complaints about Adam, but like, I was not feeling any kind of special way about it. And so eventually I broke up with him in the art room via note, which is a terrible thing to do, breaking it with someone via note. But also, that was pretty much how our whole relationship had gone up to then. So relationship number 1, fake dating spy situation. Relationship number 2, notes. We exchanged notes. Relationship number 3 was a guy who was in, I want to say, a grade beneath me or something. I cannot remember how I know it was through a mutual friend that we started going out. And like, I just have a vivid memory of meeting up with him and his brother or his friend or something at the mall. And I had just purchased I had just purchased like a tank top. It wasn't a tank top. It was like a sleeveless shirt made out of black fur. So like a black fur, not real fur, but like a black fur tank top. And I thought it was just the hottest piece of clothing ever. I mean, it was warm for one thing because it was made out of fake black fur. And I just remember being like all swaggy and like, hey, what's up? So we also did not have much of a relationship. Again, I think we held hands. He might have kissed my cheek once. I don't remember. But yeah, we did not date for too long. And then we broke up for some reason. I literally can't remember. So it was clearly very memorable. Okay. Now, we move on to, I'm a little bit older, and I've started going to church with my friend Jay. We'll call her Jay. There's no reason to protect her identity, but I'm doing it anyway. So I'd started going to church with my friend Jay because at that time, so this is a whole other story for another time, but like the reason I started going to church at the age of 14 or 15 or however old I was then was because I had a crush or a fixation on a guy who Jay was friends with. And so I wanted to spend more time with him, and the way to do that was to go to church. And this began my like weird Christian phase, like deep Christian phase when I was in high school. Again, that's a topic for another time. But they would have all these like youth group activities and stuff. And one time, Jay and I went to a youth group activity at another church, and it was a band, a Christian band, obviously, of youths playing worship songs, and we had a great time. But one of the band members was, I thought, very cute, and I think Jay knew him somehow. So like after the show, we talked to him, and I was like, hey, that was some good guitar up there. When you were singing about Jesus, that was rad. We didn't say rad. He thought I was cute. I thought he was cute. So we kind of decided to date a little bit. I think, now he went to a different school, so it was not easy, but we went on a few dates. I remember he came to a football game once at our school, and I saw him at a few other youth group activities. And this is, in fact... Oh, I just realized I forgot something important. We'll get back to that in a second. This was the first time that I kissed someone, like someone I was dating. So it wasn't my first kiss. I'll talk about that in a sec. So I remember like walking around the football game with him. Like this was the thing that we would do back then. We would go to a football game, not to watch the football, but to walk around and like talk and eat food from the concession stands and, flirt with people, I guess. So it was a rainy time and he had an umbrella and we were walking together and it was cool. And like at the end of the night, he was like he poked his cheek, like, oh, will you kiss my cheek? And so I went in and he turned his face. So I ended up kissing his lips. So my first kiss with someone I was dating was a trick. But yeah, like shortly after that, we just kind of fizzled out because we rarely saw each other, and maybe I freaked out because I did that a lot. So that reminded me, my first kiss, which I'm not sure if this actually was my first kiss, but it's the first one I remember. So what meaningful circumstances surrounded my first kiss? Well, so my friend Jessica, who was like my BFF for a really long time, despite the fact that we were very different, and she was one of like the smartest people in terms of grades, and just like the ditziest person you have ever met in terms of common sense. So her cousin Brian was visiting her, and he was maybe like a year younger than us or something like that. And I felt kind of tingly about Brian. Like I felt a little bit like, oh, yeah, you know what? Yeah. So we did spin the bottle. Me, Jessica, her cousin, and maybe one other friend of ours. I don't even know, like, I do not remember what the hell happened in this situation. Because, like, the only thing I remember is that, and this is the end of the story, obviously, is that I ended up kissing Brian as a result, and that was my first kiss, and it was really weird. I just remember like giant face coming towards me, and I'm like, is this how it's supposed to be? But what happened with that? Like, did Jessica and her cousin kiss? What was the end goal? Was it just so that me and Brian, like, I genuinely do not remember, but I know we had a bottle of Jessica's nail polish and we spun it around on like a magazine on her bed, and me and Brian ended up like smooching very briefly. And yeah, and I had a crush on him for quite some time, but he was totally uninterested. So yeah, so that was my first kiss. And then the youth group guy was like my first kiss with someone I was dating, though it was not an intentional kiss on my part. And that is the point where the amusing youthful hijinks end, because my next relationship was the guy I dated towards the end of high school, like my senior year. I will talk about that at some point, but that relationship was really not good. Like, he was manipulative and emotionally abusive, and it was a really, really fucked up relationship. We'll talk about that some other time. But yes, so those are my those are my dating moments throughout my time as a youth, my teen dating experiences. So yeah, like not much on the dating front, really. I had crushes on people constantly, but I don't think I ever, not once during the time that I was pining after people did I ever have them reciprocate, unfortunately. So, because like I almost said his name. So the boyfriend, the terrible boyfriend from the end of high school, even had a crush on my friend Jay from youth group. And when she turned him down, he and I had become good friends. And he was like, should we just date? And I was like, I guess, sure. And so began the tragedy of that. It's kind of annoying because like through my whole life, I've had these very strong crushes and these very strong, like just falling really hard for people. But unfortunately, they tend not to reciprocate. So then the question becomes, am I setting myself up for failure? Am I only falling for people I know will not fall for me in return? Who knows? That is a complex psychological question for another time. But in any case, so yeah, those are my my relationships. So to summarize, fake dating, spy boyfriends. We have note passing, don't speak, break up through note boyfriend. We have fur tank top. I don't remember anything about it. It was very short and we didn't do much boyfriend. We have youth group boyfriend who tricked me into kissing him. And we have he who shall not be named. Yeah. So my illustrious dating background. How about you? Would you like to share? Feel free to share in the comments anything you would like to share. Feel free to share anything you would like to share. Good. Yeah. Feel free to share anything you would like to in the comments about your own childhood or teenage dating experiences. Mine were pretty forgettable, but hopefully have brought you a little bit of entertainment. Yeah, Darla. Meow. What's up, Darla? Yeah, she's a little bit grumpy today. Okay, well, that's about all for this video. Hope you enjoyed. Huge thanks, as always, to our patrons who are amazing, wonderful, fantastic, spectacular, and incredible. And a special shout out to our Nick Nelson members, Kent Smither, Paul Z, Kim Engel, Angela Moondragon, and Tanya. Exposed! I put on my glasses so I could read the patrons list, because even though I know the names of the patrons, I'm always afraid I will forget it in the moment. And yeah, I'm wearing my glasses today, but I hate the way that I hate the glare that comes off the light. Anyway, all right, well, have a wonderful rest of your day or night or whatever time of day it may happen to be, and I'll see you next time. All right, bye.